What topics do you speak on? That's a great question that I get asked all the time. Coordinators ask that a lot, and one thing that you got to keep in mind, of course, is when you're asking, when talking to a speaker on the phone, you've already got in mind kind of what your event's about. You know, if you're a HOSA coordinator, it's a health occupations organization, so you probably want it to be somewhat in the neighborhood of health occupations or at least leadership, because those students are coming to learn leadership skills within maybe that parameter, you know. But so you got to have that in mind. But at the same time, that speaker ought to be able to do some other stuff for you. You know, if you're coordinating a conference, you ought to say, you know, okay, here's our main topic. Once you do our keynote, it's just a kind of a big motivational hoorah. Or if they're, you know, for educators or staff development or whatever, we want you to motivate and encourage our teachers or connect better with the students or whatever it might be. But we also have a time after the keynote, we have some breakout sessions that we would like you to do. What topics do you speak on? And a good speaker ought to be able to rattle you off 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 really good, solid topics, at least 2 though. At least 2. Their keynote topic, and then they got to have a breakout. You can always tell an inexperienced speaker when they just speak on one thing. You know, they speak on one thing. You saw them 10 years ago, that's what they were speaking on. You saw them yesterday, that's what they're speaking on. And their program didn't change, it's word for word. You know, that's not a speaker. That's someone who has memorized something and they go out and deliver it and get paid for it. You know, that's not someone who's constantly cultivating and learning new stuff that can really make the most impact on a student or educators as possible. So when someone asks me what topics do you speak on, if you're doing a leadership event, a leadership conference or something, I'll also tell you about my career development stuff or my confidence boosting stuff. I do this whole breakout session on busting out of your comfort zone and being more confident than you've ever been in your life. I also do something called lights, camera, action. All the time that I've spent on movie sets and television sets and stuff. Nothing ain't worth nothing, so to speak, if they don't yell action. You can have everything ready, lights, camera, and the multi-million-dollar actor standing next to you. But if you don't say action, you know, you might as well have a dog standing there. You know, it doesn't matter. And that's a really good topic for a conference. A speaker ought to have topics for you like that. They ought to have different things. Well, here's your keynote, but here's something else. How to interview effectively. How to make the best grades that you've ever made before in your life. How to do things like that. Or for student events coordinators and student activities committees and things like that. How to fill the room and have the best event ever. How to have the biggest event on the smallest budget. Things like that. They ought to have all kinds of different things that they can offer you, because if any speaker that's been doing this a long time, they've run across all kinds of people's needs, and you've done hundreds of events, so you pick up on what works best, what doesn't work best. So put it together in a program and a topic and show, you know what, in my 10 years experience of doing all these events, I've seen the best ways to do them and I've seen the worst ways to do them. Here's all the best ways and here's the ways to watch out for. That's a great topic. All right. So a speaker ought to have multiple topics to share with you and just be able to rattle them off just like that when you ask them, so what all topics do you present on? But one thing that you want to watch out for, a pitfall, is when a speaker speaks on like 20 topics. Or when you say, what all topics do you speak on? And a speaker says to you, well, I can speak on anything you want me to speak on. What do you want me to speak on? I can do everything. No, you can't. All right? That's somebody who just gets up there and they have the gift of gab and they can just talk. And they just talk, and your students are going to see right through it. They're like, this is a guy, this is a girl who's just talking. All right? They're not really saying anything with any kind of substance. You don't want just a bunch of fluff, you know. And that's also somebody that just wants to be hired. That they might be in it maybe a little bit more for the money than they are for the actual message and impact they can make on your students, you know. So don't you know, fall victim for that kind of thing, because I've heard some speakers say that I can just speak on anything. Well, then that means you're not an expert on anything. If you know everything about everything, you know, it's impossible. There are certain things that I do, and if someone asks me, hey, can you speak on this topic? You know what, I'm an experienced enough speaker to go, you know what, that's not the best topic for me to speak on, but I've got a friend of mine that speaks on that topic. They'd be way better for you than that. I mean, that's an honest answer for you. But if it falls within the things that I'm an expert on and I can just absolutely deliver it home, yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you what all I speak on. But, you know, you should, that's going to be 4 or 5 topics. It's not going to be 20. All right, so anyway, that gives you a little bit better idea of the answers you should be expecting when asked, hey, what all topics do you speak on?